The Conjuring franchise employs two horror techniques over and over. The first being the slow dolly and pan into a room to reveal nothing. And then a surprise.
Yeah, baby!
Yeah, baby, yeah!
And the static shot sitting on someone for as long as possible, ratcheting up the tension slowly until there's a release. And then repeating the technique later, playing off audience expectations for maximum effect. Everybody, welcome back to Sticky Floor Friday, the internet movie show that just watched all of the Conjuring movies in the Conjureverse in chronological order, ahead of my review for The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Why? No, the devil didn't make me do it. It's because I'm an idiot who likes to torture himself. Now, before this week, I had only seen The Conjuring, a movie I like a lot, but apparently not enough to follow up on the other 6 movies. So I wanted to remedy that before The Devil Made Me Do It. But before I get into my movie-by-movie breakdown, let's get into a brief history on The Conjuring. I spoke about the creator of the franchise, James Wan, in my Saw video, so you're going to have to give me an extra click if you want to see how his career started, also see me lose my mind watching all of the Saw movies. But then post-Saw, he moved on to another movie with puppets, Dead Silence, which was not well received. Then he created the Insidious franchise, which was well received. It could be a bit goofy, but that has some great set pieces and the genius conceit that a family living in a haunted house immediately moves out of the haunted house, which is what everyone in a theater watching a haunted house movie yells at the people inside the haunted house. Get out of there! Insidious spawned a successful quadrilogy, but he only directed the first one. After that, James Wan moved on to The Conjuring, a franchise about doors opening and closing by themselves. It's also about the exploits of real-life sexy ghost detectives Ed and Lorraine Warren. Here they are as sexy Patrick Wilson and sexy Vera Farmiga. And here they are in real life, even sexier if I do say so myself. And these real-life paranormal investigators track down haunted knickknacks that act as conduits for evil spirits. Then they gather them up and they put them all in one room in their house because, like me, they're idiots who like to torture themselves. We'll get to that later. Wan made the first Conjuring in 2013, and it was a big enough hit that it spawned 2 sequels, a spin-off trilogy, and 2 B-side films. It's only the 3rd horror franchise to break $1 billion. And do you know what the 4th one is? That just happened? Yeah, it was Saw, also created by James Wan. Every Conjuring movie is a hybrid demonic possession and haunted house movie. They all share variations on the same conceit. A malevolent demon is trying to break someone down and then possess them. And they all have an old school horror, 70s influence feel. They aren't overly gruesome. In fact, most of them have 0 casualties. Other trademarks in the Conjureverse include every husband is always conveniently away when the shit hits the fan, and then every husband shows back up with a lunch pail or a briefcase or something just as someone is screaming and he's all like, "Hey, what's going on here?"
What happened?
Lots of leg tugging. playing creepy records at inopportune times, turning on appliances at inopportune times, playing creepy board games at inopportune times. The point is, these demons work on their own schedule. And jump scares. So many jump scares. So with the third Conjuring movie coming out, let's take a look at the Conjureverse in chronological order, starting with... It's the haunted convent movie, The Nun. Now, if you start with The Nun, and you weren't obligated to watch any more movies like I am, you would just stop right there, because this movie is nonsense. It feels small, and within a half hour it devolves into unearned jump scares with no actual rules. It flails around trying to make nuns scary. There's no vision or artistry to the execution. Every shot is flat, and all the religious iconography has no weight or meaning behind it. The thing is, when I watch this, I have no reference to this nun. So I only know this movie, and I am not frightened by this nun, and I don't like the movie that she stars in, and I don't ever want to see her again. But the craziest choice of all is the casting. They cast Taissa Farmiga, Vera Farmiga's sister. Now, Vera plays Lorraine Warren, one of the two main characters of the Conjuring universe, and her sister plays... Well, she plays a sister, but she doesn't play her sister. Her character literally has no relation to Vera Farmiga at all. The only explanation for this casting has to be nepotism. Or in this case, nunpotism. The connection to the main franchise is like a weak afterthought, using a character we don't care about to tie into a lecture scene from the original Conjuring. You had the sister right there! It's crazy! Actually, never mind. The craziest part about The Nun is the fact that this is the highest grossing movie in the Conjuring universe. How is that possible? Look, if you're thinking about it, you don't want none of this. I just hope this franchise doesn't make a habit of shitty movies. Okay, now I'm done with the nun puns. Let's move on to the next one. Annabelle the doll was introduced in the prologue of the first Conjuring, but I don't know that yet, right? The doll is one of the more indelible aspects of this franchise, so it makes sense that she got her own spin-off. This is the origin story of Annabelle, and it's about a doll maker whose daughter is tragically killed, and then he and his grief-stricken wife allow a malevolent force posing as their daughter to inhabit the doll that he made so they can hang out with her some more. That seems to make sense, right? They realize this is a mistake, and then of course they lock the doll away. But then a group of orphans show up for reasons, and of course they discover Annabelle, and I actually really like this one. It's kind of fun to watch the orphans try to survive, even if the finale devolves into an overlong game of hide and seek. It also has a really good finger-breaking sequence, which is some of the most explicitly graphic violence in the whole Conjuring franchise. There's a nun reference in here, which in my world is a callback, but in reality was foreshadowing, and I hope they don't keep reminding me of the bad nun movie. This one ends with Annabelle possessing another girl, and includes a nice nod to Raggedy Ann, which is the actual doll that was possessed in real life. They created Annabelle for the movies, which turns out to be a pretty savvy move, because now they own the rights to their own doll, and I don't know how many people would have been coming out to a Raggedy Ann horror trilogy. Annabelle Creation is one of the stronger spin-offs. It's way better than The Nun, and gives me hope for the rest of the series. I like this one. I did not like this one. This is Annabelle, a movie obsessed with terrorizing a pregnant woman. And here's where I have to acknowledge this point. This Annabelle doll is a fucking creep. And I don't know why anybody would want one. Like, even if you had it as a child, and then you get it as a grown-up, which is what happens in this movie, you shouldn't have any nostalgia for this. Like, when I was a kid, I had a ventriloquism doll. Charlie McCarthy was his name, and he had a little monocle and a top hat and shit. Yes, I had dreams of becoming a ventriloquist. They lasted mere days. But I would sit there and I would try to talk and do my ventriloquism act very poorly. And then when I was done, at the end of the day, for some ungodly reason, we would have a little chair that I would sit him in my room, and then I would go to bed. Why did I do that? It was an awful nightmare, and I pretty soon after made my parents get rid of it, because, oh my god. And if I saw that thing again in real life, I would pee my pants and scream and throw up and throw that thing in a dumpster, burn it, and spread the ashes across the world. I would not want to see that again. Anyway, all the good info you need to know about Annabelle is in Annabelle Creation. Much like The Nun, this one relies too heavily on jump scares, and I have no connection to the characters. Man, some of these spin-offs feel like the bassist from your favorite band releasing a solo album. You feel an obligation to give it a listen, but you know it's going to be needy and weird and you'll never listen to it again. Luckily, next up we have your favorite band's breakthrough album. Here it is! This is the crown jewel, the one that started it all, The Conjuring. And after watching 3 non-Wans, watching the original, directed by James Wan, makes a world of difference. This is where we get to hang out with the sexy, sexy Warrens and see how Wan laid out a mythology about their room of cursed treasures that could be chased down in a bunch of sequels and spin-offs. We also meet a family who moves into a haunted house where Ron Livingston accidentally unleashes a demonic force on the family. Then he's like, oh, I gotta go drive this truck. And he leaves them to fend for themselves. We also learn that ghosts are stinky.
Ugh, it's that smell again.
This presence brings in the Warrens, who investigate and discover it wants to possess Lily Taylor's character. And there are several great sequences in this one, including a scene where one of the characters can see a ghost, but the audience can't. And it's horrifying because obviously what you can't see is much scarier than what you can. There's also a really cool match lighting sequence that rivals the Saw flashbulb sequence. And there's a cool hide and clap game that they play, and it's just really, really effective. It does devolve into a pretty standard exorcism at the end, but I rewatched this on an iPad as God and Christopher Nolan intended, and it still got to me. It's good shit. And I don't know what's to come, but they've shown great restraint by not setting a movie inside the Warrens' house with all the evil spirits being released, like in Ghostbusters. And now we have the movie where the evil spirits are released like in Ghostbusters. I spoke too soon. So much for restraint. And this is why you don't keep a room full of creepy haunted objects in it. Because some kid is going to inevitably sneak in there and be thinking about her dad who passed away, and she's going to touch everything and unleash a bunch of demons on the world. And that's exactly what Annabelle Comes Home is about. Now this one is bookended with the Warrens, which is a nice spicy treat. And it acts like a bottle episode where the Warrens' daughter and her friends accidentally release Annabelle from her glass case of demonic emotion. It has better tone and pacing than Annabelle, and the inclusion of the Warrens adds a much-needed dose of charisma and sweet, sweet sideburns. And it also has a sense of humor, which the other non-Wans are severely lacking. And maybe it's also because this one has less jump scares and it's more atmospheric, creepy moments with ghosts in the background or on the fringes of the frame, rather than just jumping out at you. I should say these movies are easier to take than my Saw movie binge, but they also have the unfortunate effect of squishing together in a big jump scary mush and becoming boring. These are not movies meant to be binged. I have unleashed something unholy here. Especially the singularly focused movies, they just aren't nearly as interesting when they're fleshed out, like The Nun, and like Annabelle does not need 3 movies. However, Annabelle Comes Home does benefit from having numerous cases in play, from the ferryman to the haunted wedding dress to a haunted TV. It just makes it so much more fun. And this also plays to a younger demographic, but I actually don't mind that. It kind of reminds me of a horror movie from the 80s called The Gate, which is also about kids home alone unleashing hell on their house. And if you haven't seen The Gate, you should check it out. It's somehow PG, even though it would definitely be rated R if it came out today. One of my favorite movies as a kid, and it messed me up something bad. Almost as bad as that Charlie McCarthy doll. Next we have The Curse of La Llorona. And that's really all I want to say about it, because this movie is lousy. Now we're back with a full-fledged Warren-centric story with The Conjuring, European Vacation. They head to jolly old England to investigate the Crooked Man, who attempts to possess a young girl and get them to leave his house. And after watching so many non-Wan movies, it's clear that James Wan has the best handle on this material. He shows the most restraint and knows when and how to ratchet up the tension while keeping the story grounded in character, which a lot of these movies just fail to do. Just like any horror movie, you have to care about the people being terrorized in order to care about the movie in general. And the third act shifts heavily to the Warrens and Lorraine's quest to save Ed from the damn nun. I cannot escape this damn nun. And after seeing Conjuring 2, I'm even more convinced we did not need a nun movie. She is all over this thing. But aside from that nunnery, this is a stylish, energetic movie that has a strong point of view. And at this point, I don't know what's scary anymore. I've been numbed to the scares. But I like watching the Warrens solve cases, and I'm going to continue to do so. And let me talk a little bit about watching these chronologically. I don't really think it added much to the movies by watching them this way. I mean, The Nun is certainly a bad way to kick things off, and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But things get better. And it's almost like a bad movie, good movie, bad movie. It's very Star Trek in that way. And I'd say the only one that benefits is Annabelle, which I still didn't like, but I liked it more having the context of Annabelle Creation. I think the chronological viewing works if you chop a couple movies off and you simply do Annabelle Creation, The Conjuring, Annabelle Comes Home, and Conjuring 2. And now on to my ranking of the Conjureverse ahead of The Devil Made Me Do It. Number 1, Haunted House. Number 2, Haunted Warren House. Number 3, Haunted English Loft. Number 4, Haunted Farmhouse. Number 5, Pregnant Lady. Number 6, Haunted Convent. Number 7, Haunt Garbage. Alright, check back soon for my review of The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, or if it's a couple days or weeks later, the video may be sitting right here, or I have no idea what's here. If not that, but I'm sure it's great and wonderful, and we're having a great time. Hey everybody, welcome back to Sticky Floor Friday. Alright, let's do it again, shall we? Hey everybody, welcome back to Sticky Floor Friday, the internet movie show that just watched all... What the fucking losing my shit. I cannot fucking believe this. They all share variations on the same conceit. A malevolent demon... Why is this doing this? Why is this doing this? Why is that doing that? Why is this doing that? Why is anything doing fucking anything? Jesus fucking...